Hello! Welcome back to Wednesdays with Finn. Now, I can hear you through the camera. Why, Finley, why do you look like a black Morticia Addams? The answer, my friends, is because 1, I'm black. 2, because today we are mourning the loss of the United Nation of Israel. The ancient one, not the current one. I am not touching the modern conflict with a 10-foot pole. Last week we discussed the 4 kings of the unified nation of Israel. They were Saul, Ishbosheth, David, and Solomon. Today, we're gonna talk about how it all went to pot. Now, I know I said last week that we would discuss the kings of Israel, but the more reading I was doing, the more I was like, okay, we're just gonna have to talk about Jeroboam today because the good gravy on a stick. Side note, if you ever find yourself having too much faith in humanity, read the Kings. If you want to know more of the story, look right here. And now for my favorite thing, context. First, we have Solomon. Remember how I said that Solomon had 700 wives and he turned away from God and started worshiping their gods? Well, yeah, no, God was not very happy about that. God's actual reaction went thusly. Solomon, I gave you one job and it was to obey my commands. What the heck? Okay, you know what? I'm tearing the kingdom out of your hands, but because I love David, David's my servant, he's my dude. I won't do it during your lifetime, but it's gonna be taken from your son. Got it? Don't sweat it too hard though, because I promised David that he would never not have a descendant ruling, so I'll give you Judah. And that is how it went. Solomon died, his son Rehoboam took the throne, and then all of a sudden all the enemies come out of the woodworks. One of those enemies was a guy by the name of Jeroboam. If you want a good instant image for who Jeroboam is as a person, remember Peter Baelish from Game of Thrones? Yeah, he's that guy. Chaos is a ladder. Yeah, that guy. Jeroboam's backstory is that he was a really, really good worker and he's a Benjamite, right? So he's working on Solomon's wall. He's working on additions to the wall and repairs to the wall and on repairs to his terraces. And Solomon notices just how great his work ethic is and he makes him the commander of all his workforces. So Jeroboam is having a great time. He's doing his work. He's climbing in the ranks of Solomon's palace. And then one day he's just swiggity swooting his way out of Jerusalem when Ahijah the prophet just straight grabs him from the shadows, he just and Jeroboam's ah! And Ahijah, completely unfazed, takes Jeroboam's cloak and rips it into 12 pieces and then says, "Take 10, for the Lord shall give you 10 tribes." I don't know why I made Ahijah the prophet sound like Gollum, but here we are. Anyway, Jeroboam's whoop, guess it's time to rebel. Solomon's I'm gonna kill this fool. Jeroboam leaves, he escapes to Egypt where he hooks up with Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's so just enamored with Jeroboam that he gives him his sister-in-law in marriage. So Jeroboam could have had a really good life in Egypt, but instead, we now return to the present day. Rehoboam is now king of Israel. Remember, Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. Solomon is now dead. We're returning to where we were. Rehoboam goes to this place called Shechem where he is crowned king, and Jeroboam and his crew just come waltzing in there yo, what's up, Rehoboam? How you is? Just had this image in my mind of Rehoboam looking on Jeroboam Anywho, we now see another example of God's prophecies being completely right. Because you know how at the very beginning where the people of Israel were going, "Yo, Samuel, we want a king." And Samuel's "Okay, I hear this from God and also I agree. You're going to regret this because their yoke is going to be so heavy on you." And the people of Israel are "We don't care, bruh, give us a king." Now is the time for that to come true. This entire section is just God prophecy fulfilled central. Jeroboam and his crew go up to Rehoboam the king. They're "Hey, yo, what's up, king? So now that you're being crowned king, can you just do us a favor and stop with the forced labor stuff and make the yoke a little bit lighter on us?" Rehoboam tells him to come back in 3 days. Then he goes to his actual kingly advisors and he goes, "Hey, yo, should I do it?" And the kingly advisors are yeah. I don't see why not. There's literally no downside, and you would win their undying loyalty. And Rehoboam's sounds suspicious. Seriously, guys, God surrounds us with wise people for a reason. Maybe listen to them, okay? Don't be Rehoboam and go to your bros and say, "Hey, yo, should I show my people basic mercy?" These bros literally said to Rehoboam, "Nah, bruh, show them your power, man. You gotta prove something, bro." Rehoboam then says to Jeroboam and the crew when they come back 3 days later, "Hey, yo, I'm actually gonna make this so much harder on you because you know what? I'm stronger than my dad. I'm stronger than the kings of the past. Oh yeah, look at me. I'm gonna make the life worse for the people of Israel." And that was the moment Rehoboam's rule over the entirety of Israel was killed. The people of Israel were so mad that they stoned Adoniram, the head of the forced labor division, to death. It says that all of Israel stoned him to death. They woke up granddad to bring in some wallops. Okay, all of Israel was there. You gotta be a special degree of butt nugget for them to all show up. Anyway, God's prophecy to Samuel was fulfilled in that the people did not like the yoke that Rehoboam was giving them, and the prophecy that God gave to Solomon was fulfilled in that the kingdom was split. So now you have the two kingdoms. You have the kingdom in the north under Jeroboam with the 10 tribes, and you have the kingdom in the south under Rehoboam with the 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin, because Judah goes hard for David, all right? There is a silver lining, though. Do you remember how in Genesis, Jacob told Judah that where Judah goes, the rest of Israel would follow? Well, who comes from the line of Judah? Jesus. Yes, the kingdom was split, but because God's lampstand is with Jerusalem, with the tribe of Judah, that means that ultimately the entire goal was reconciliation, and it would be led by the house of Judah. You also see the prophecy of David always having a ruler in place fulfilled through Jesus, because all the way through the line, all the way up to Jesus, you always saw a descendant of David in power in Israel. This is a lesson we can kind of take from this because, God will always keep his promises to us, but sometimes through our own actions, we can make it look not the way we necessarily wanted it to. All right, so next week, I promise we will go through the kings of the Northern Kingdom, but we're going to call it for today. In the meantime, stay safe, make wise choices, and happy Wednesday.